Story appears ordinary till you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is the story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides on political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
CoreTV News, expanding your view.
Hello there, welcome to CoreTV News at 7. I am Gift Ogete. President Goodluck Jonathan has launched the multipurpose National EID card. Speaking at the formal lunch in Abuja, the president says the target is to ensure that over 100 million cards were issued. He thereafter charged the National Identity Management Commission to ensure prompt and swift issuance of the EID to all Nigerians as fast as possible. The president laments that the lack of proper identification had made it difficult for ordinary Nigerians to benefit from government subsidies. President Jonathan also wants it used for salaries and pension payment because of its security devices. Nigeria has recorded a new death from Ebola in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. The latest casualty, according to the health authorities, is a doctor who treated one of the primary contacts of the late Patrick Soya. This brings to 16 the number of Ebola cases in Nigeria. Health Minister Onyebuchi disclosed that 70 people are now under surveillance in the Rivers State capital.
Of Mr. Soyas had evaded our surveillance team in the last week of July 2014 and traveled out of Lagos to Port Harcourt, where, as we now understand, he consulted with a doctor and was apparently treated for some symptoms. A few days later, 5 days later, following a manhunt for him, he returned to Lagos, by which time he was found to be without symptoms. This case would have been of no further interest since he had completed the 21 days of surveillance without any other issue. But for the fact that the doctor who treated him in Port Harcourt died last Friday, the 22nd of August 2014. Following the report of his death by the doctor's widow, the next day, that Saturday when the report came to us, the case has since been thoroughly investigated, and laboratory analysis showed that the doctor died from Ebola virus disease.
In spite of Nigeria's success in treating Ebola patients, health authorities say the country has not totally eliminated the disease. Health Minister Onyebuchi says the country remains at risk for as long as there is free cross-border movement. The minister, who spoke with State House correspondents after the Federal Executive Council meeting, insists that there is no need to close Nigeria's borders because of the Ebola virus.
We stop being at risk when the very last case of Ebola viral disease under this current epidemic has gone. But please, let's educate our people, because I heard that even some people now, since this morning, have been holding parties. The party should be suspended. Please, we still have a case in Nigeria, and it may still be possible. It's still possible that we can still have 1, 2, or 3 more cases before we stop having cases, because there are people under surveillance. So if we are sure there's no more problem, there'll be no need to put them under surveillance. It's because there's still that chance that one of them may become sick. We test, it becomes positive, and I will still announce it. So we've done well on containment, but by no means have we eliminated the problem in Nigeria. It's just that Nigeria has a success story to tell the rest of the world. But let's also balance. We shouldn't go into panic, but we shouldn't go into euphoria, just to maintain that balanced, study, disciplined mien and comportment. That is what is required of Nigeria. We are doing well, but it's not over. The problem is not over.
Head of the United States top public health body, Tom Frieden, says the Ebola epidemic in Liberia is set to get worse, and many cases of the deadly disease are not included in the official tally. Liberia has been hardest hit by the epidemic that is raging through West Africa, with 624 deaths and 1,082 cases since the start of the year. Frieden met President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf to discuss ways of combating the epidemic.
For the last few days, talking to patients, healthcare workers, government workers, community leaders, and others. The situation with Ebola in Liberia today is dire. There is need for urgent action. The world has never seen an outbreak of Ebola like this. Unfortunately, not only are the numbers large, but we know that there are many more cases than have been diagnosed and reported, and that cases are increasing. I wish I didn't have to say this, but it is going to get worse before it gets better. At the same time, I've been very impressed by the response that I have seen. All of Liberia needs to come together to stop Ebola. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be quick.
The death toll from the Ebola outbreak raging through West Africa has passed the 1,500 mark, while the number of cases has soared past 3,000, according to the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization says a total of 1,552 people had died in Guinea, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Nigeria from the epidemic that reared its head at the beginning of the year, while 3,062 had become infected. Guinea had 648 cases, including 430 deaths, while Sierra Leone has 1,026 cases and 422 deaths. Liberia has so far counted 1,378 cases and 694 deaths, while Nigeria has seen 17 cases and 6 deaths, according to the World Health Organization. The United Nations has commended Nigeria for successfully containing the Ebola virus disease. Special Envoy of the UN Secretary-General David Navarro delivered the message at a meeting with President Goodluck Jonathan. The President, in his response, praised the Lagos State government for teaming up with the Federal Ministry of Health to stem the threat posed by Ebola. President Jonathan assured the UN Special Convoy that in spite of the seeming success of its containment measures, the government will remain vigilant to guard against further cases of Ebola in the country. The meeting also provided an opportunity for the President to condemn discrimination against Nigerians by some countries over recent cases of the disease in the country. He particularly denounced actions such as that which forced Nigeria's team to the Youth Olympics in China to abandon its participation. President Jonathan argued that there was no justification to stigmatize Nigerians since the virus had been effectively contained and never attained epidemic levels. It's CoreTV News at 7. We'll take this very short break. Stay with us.
This is Lagos. This is our city. You know that our city needs heroes. Yeah, yeah. Our future is in our hands. The spirit of Lagos, a city that is strong in value, a Lagos that is filled with heroes. With neighbors that care for each other. This is Lagos. This is our city. Our city needs heroes. Our future is in our hands. The spirit of Lagos.
I need you, you need me. Together, we're the spirit of Lagos.
Welcome back. It's CoreTV News at 7. Ralph Ifeanyi Chukwunwoye has emerged the new Deputy Governor of Enugu State. The office had become vacant after Sunday Onyebuchi was impeached by members of the Enugu State House of Assembly on Tuesday. The new deputy governor, a clergy of the Christ Ascension Church, was screened and cleared by the House of Assembly following his nomination by Governor Sullivan Chime after the House had returned from a short break during Thursday's plenary session. The Speaker, Eugene Odo, read a letter forwarded to the lawmakers by the governor, urging them to expeditiously consider and approve Nwoye's nomination. The break was occasioned by the receipt of the letter. After the letter had been read, the leader of the House, Ude Okoye, seconded by the deputy leader, John Okuta, moved motions for the immediate acceptance and consideration of the letter and for the nominee screening. Nwoye was then ushered into the chambers of the House for screening, but he ended up just taking a bow after a lawmaker, John Anichuku, pleaded with his colleagues that the reverend gentleman standing before them be allowed to take a bow and leave the chambers. Voter education has been in the front burner as the Independent National Electoral Commission prepares for the 2015 general elections. Guest analyst Chijioke Eze says the inability of the electorate to have full knowledge of the electoral process is the fault of the electoral umpire, ordering that INEC should take up the responsibility of educating voters and not political parties. Eze was speaking on our flagship program, Core Digest.
To vote for me, don't register, they won't vote. But how are you going to then achieve that? If you sponsor advertisements to say, hey, go out there and register, this is the time to register, if you're in this state this time. If you were, say, a national politician, somebody who was vying for the post of the presidency, and you wanted to take out advertisements that will go around the country, that's beautiful. But if you were a state politician, or you run in a certain locality, and then you can do that. But we need to be wary before we ask politicians to do anything. Because if I come in and I try to assist INEC in Ogun State, for instance, and I spend my money on behalf of INEC, educating the masses to do what they should do. However, it's INEC who's supposed to do this, not the politicians. INEC is supposed to advertise and educate the public, not the politicians, not the political parties. INEC is supposed to get their materials out to the people or create the channels for the people to reach them, not the politicians.
Also speaking, a legal practitioner and President Voters Awareness Initiative, Wale Ogunade, condemned the attitude of politicians who defect from one political party to another, struggling for power without ideology.
Politicians, they are in PDP this morning, and I call them political harlots, practicing harlotry shamelessly. They are Mrs. PDP in the morning. In the afternoon, they are Mrs. APC, or what do they call themselves? APC. In the evening, they are Mrs. Labour Party. In fact, they are ready to sleep with PCBA and whatever other party. Shamelessly. And in the morning, they will come out again and be rubbing their pancake. That, yes, I'm beautiful. Any other man that is ready, I'm ready for him. Shamelessly. No value, no idea. They are just shameless. And look at what is happening now. Look at them. They are all running around. All they are interested is in just to capture and to be in government and in power. They have no interest of developing. And unfortunately, it's a short time. Before you know it, is either they spend 4 years or 8 years. After that, they come back, and some of them, they die in penury. They die unsung. There are so many of them.
All activities to mark the 23rd anniversary of the creation of Osun State were suspended as attention shifted to the Election Petition Tribunal, which is entertaining the People's Democratic Party's challenge of the result of the August 9 governorship election in the state. The battle started with main gladiators in the election, the PDP and the APC filing an application for leave to assess and inspect all materials used by the Independent National Electoral Commission for the conduct of the poll. Rashid was at the Election Tribunal sitting in Osogbo. He filed in this report.
The August 9th election in Osun State was mainly a battle between the candidates of the People's Democratic Party, Iyola Omishore, and that of the All Progressives Congress and incumbent Governor Rauf Aregbesola. As the result was announced, Iyola Omishore vows to challenge the results at the Election Tribunal. The lead counsel for Iyola Omishore, Afolabi Fashanu, and Wale Afolabi, standing for Rauf Aregbesola, sought the leave of the court to inspect the ballot materials used for the August 9th election.
We came to seek leave of court for the purpose of examining electoral materials that were used during the last election.
That they could not, by any stretch of imagination, have that kind of number of votes that they have. So we want to inspect all those materials, the ballot papers used, all the electoral materials used. We'll be able to defend in our petition.
The court premises was filled to the brim with supporters of the PDP. The reason for this? Not far-fetched. Iyiola Omishore was in court and speaks with journalists on the alleged election manipulation of the APC.
The PDP is here to challenge the result of the rigged election. And you can see that that's the only thing that's saving the peace in this state. So we will now expose the massive rigging, malpractices, ballot stuffing, and ballot manipulation and carriage of ballot boxes to the public to see that APC has no place in this state.
As the battle leaves the streets for the courtroom, both counsels speak of their expectations when petition is finally submitted and sitting starts.
After that, will assist you to know where things went wrong, particularly from the side of either INEC or APC. So to foster at least our chance.
When they fight the election petition properly before the court, we are going to meet them paragraph by paragraph, word for word. We are ready for them.
Omishore, however, admonishes his supporters and party faithfuls to be calm as they are coasting to victory.
We believe that the will of people must triumph over the rigging of the people of PPC. And sincerely, this court will determine the actual winner of the 9th of August elections peacefully and in a more civilized environment, unlike the thuggery and violence being perpetrated or created by APC.
The tribunal awaits the petition of both parties as they might have concluded the inspection of the election material. Rashid, CoreTV News, Oshogbo.
The Osun State government is fully in support of the class action filed by about 700 members of the All Progressives Congress against security agencies over alleged arrest and detention during the recent election. Senior Special Assistant to the Governor on Research, Planning and Policy Implementation, Olusegun Bada, stated this in an interview with CoreTV News in Abuja. He argued that only people on ground can fully understand the manner APC members were treated by security operatives before and during the election.
People were traumatized. Senator Adeleke did not run away, escape from his house. He has to sleep in his grandmother's house. It was essentially disenfranchised because of the militarization. That's one. Mr. Fakurede from Ora, an elder statesman who's about 80 years old, he's a lawyer. He was driven and incarcerated, manhandled. There were so many of our friends who were beaten like even Lai Mohammed. You see, intimidation itself is a psychological thing. And if you distort somebody's psycho, in psychoanalytical theory, it's more damaging than physical damage. So 40 billion, I even believe, is even too small. It was a terrible scenario. You need to be on ground. It's rather sin than just than you hearing about it. We were on ground. They were bragging. They were not ready to do elections. But the people, it was the will of the people, the resolve of the people that, look, this election must hold and our votes must count.
Reactions have been trailing the recent security meeting between former President Olusegun Obasanjo and President Goodluck Jonathan over security matters in the country. Head of the Coalition Against Corrupt Leaders, Debo Adeniran, says the meeting was a distraction and unnecessary at this time.
It is an unnecessary meeting because they have had different opportunity and fora to hold meetings before now. And as a matter of fact, Obasanjo cannot claim that he became wiser when he left the office as the president of Nigeria. All along, he had the opportunity of spending 8 years as the civilian president of this country. And most of these insurgency issues of security developed during his tenure. Maybe because the general dissatisfaction from the populace, about the way they were governed, the inadequacies, the lopsided distribution of wealth of this country must have engineered some of these things. The hope that was dashed during the Obasanjo days must have led to the militancy, insurgency, and several other forms of, explosive anger that different parts of the country are unleashing on innocent people who did not contribute to that misery. Then for a Jonathan to now see Obasanjo as that cesspool of wisdom that can lead to the curbing of insurgency is a step in the wrong direction.
It's Core TV News at 7. We'll take another break. Stay with us.
You can now watch CoreTV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to CoreTV Primetime Days.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click CoreTV, leave a space, then News. CoreTV News, our 24-hour news station.
Welcome back. It's Core TV News at 7. The European Union says it is extremely concerned by reports of an incursion by Russian troops into Ukraine. EU says there is an urgent need for the political solution to the crisis on the eastern edge of the European Union. EU leaders plan to discuss the development in Ukraine at the summit that is primarily tasked with filing top EU jobs, including the successor for Ashton.
Very closely following what is going on the ground, that the High Representative has been obviously extremely concerned by the latest developments, including reports that we are seeing on what is going on in the ground. Our call on Russia to put an immediate stop to any form of border hostilities. This obviously includes the flow of arms, equipment and military personnel from Russia to Ukraine. And we reiterate our support for the political and an urgent need for political solution of the crisis that would be based on full respect of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The EU leaders are coming to Brussels on Saturday, and the crisis in Ukraine is on the agenda of the summit.
Germany anti-Euro party, which rejects Chancellor Angela Merkel's handling the economy, says it hopes to gain a political foothold by winning its first seats in a state parliament. Voters in Saxony kicked off the first of 3 elections in ex-communist eastern states as Germany gears up to mark 25 years since the Berlin Wall fell. The Alternative for Germany narrowly missed entering the German parliament in last September's general election, but made its debut at the European Parliament in May. Analysts say the party, which wants the orderly dissolution of the euro, must broaden its appeal from a single tissue to appear relevant at the regional level. A recent poll for the party suggested that it can win around 7% of the vote, clearing the threshold to enter the Saxony Parliament in Dresden and providing momentum for votes in neighboring town and on September 14th. That's Core TV News at 7. Thank you so much for staying tuned. Join us again at 9:45 for Primetime News. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of our programs. Good evening. I am Gift Orkete.